Hare Krishna. Good morning.
Good morning. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Let's take this medicine and the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, which can help us to distinguish reality from illusion, and it can bring us closer to our dear Lord Shri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Parantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. We just saw how Brahma, after convincing Prthu Maharaj, Mahavishnu appears. Vishnu appears and also gives words of wisdom to Prthu Maharaj, who very carefully listened. And the Lord was clearly trying to save him from illusion. That was his mood, Prthu Maharaj's mood. And then how did he take it? He saw that Vishnu or Krishna was instructing him to see his hand at work instead of feeling bad about things were not going his way. What a wonderful lesson. And if Vishnu did not want Prthu Maharaj to perform the 100 sacrifice, then why be attached to the idea? What a relevant lesson for all of us. Krishna's will, may Krishna's will be done. And to not worry about our will. Like, as mothers, that motherly mood of ours is the highest, closest form, I can say. Sometimes we really want the good of our children. And even if it doesn't go our way, we are fine as long as it's the best for the child. So if we can treat ourselves as that inner child and let the Lord's will prevail, that's the success of life. Okay, so now we are going to jump into the crucial subject matter. Indra had been paying close attention to the conversation, right? And then he realizes that he had acted shamefully because of personal ambition. Then he's shy, he's embarrassed, he's ashamed. And he knew that Krishna understands the mind of Indra. And it was not very easy, to come to that spiritual position. He heard everything that Vishnu was speaking. And then he was wondering how to do God's will. How do you do it? Okay, so who likes to read from here? We're restarting.
Passages from Prthu caught Indra's glance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Prthu caught
this sentence.
Oh.
He looked
over at Prthu. The king was a great inspiration. Prthu caught Indra's glance and felt his heart tighten. He looked away and drew a deep breath. Even though he no longer desired to complete the last sacrifice, he was still annoyed with Indra. How could he get free of this feeling? The Lord had instructed that one be unaffected by bodily and mental disturbance. But how was that possible for embodied souls? The king folded his palms and said, "My lord, since the soul supervises the body's activities, how can he remain materially indifferent?" Vishnu smiled. An excellent question. My dear king, please understand that the constant changes of the material world are due to the modes of nature, which affect the 5 elements, the senses, the controlling gods, and the mind. If the soul identifies with the body or mind, he will feel agitated. However, My devotee has transcendental knowledge of his true identity as my servant and is always connected to me in friendship and love. He is therefore not agitated by material happiness and distress. My dear hero, keep yourself aloof from material disturbance by always executing my order. Be equipoised in happiness and distress. Treat everyone equally, whether superior, equal, or subordinate to you, and always control your mind and senses. Equipped with these transcendental qualities, execute your prescribed kingly duty of protecting your citizens in all situations of life, which are all arranged by me. That is your only responsibility. Prthu said, My lord, if is indifferent to the results of my acts, for example, if I don't care whether the citizens have sufficient food or shelter, then why would I do my duty? Conversely, if I do care about these things, then how can I remain indifferent as you instruct? Yeah. Vishnu replied, My dear king, simply by executing his royal duties, a king attains liberation. He must also ensure his citizens are performing their scripturally ordained duties so that they too can be liberated. By doing so, he receives 1/6 of the result of the citizens' pious activities. Heads of the state who simply tax their citizens but do not try their best to give them protection and guidance are punished for sinful deeds of their subjects. My dear King Prthu, if you protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmins, who have been properly trained in scriptural understanding without any speculation, then all your citizens will be happy and will love you. The liberated Kumara brothers will also soon come to see you. King Prthu bowed his head in submission. The Lord's answer was clear. By doing his duty without attachment, he would be liberated. If in the name of detachment he neglected his duty, he would go to hell. Ritual sacrifices were not the means of self-purification. By properly performing his duty, he could achieve perfection, acting always on the spiritual platform. He should treat everyone equally and not be disturbed by any material situation. Plainly, his anger towards Indra was due to ignorance. Vishnu looked lovingly at Prthu. My dear king, I am captivated.
Let's pause there.
Yes.
So, very interesting that Prthu Maharaj is feeling the emotions which we can all relate to. And most of us go through this emotion where we wonder, how do we do my duty without becoming entangled? How do you do your duty but be detached, right? Sometimes we hear that thing that don't be attached to the results. No, we don't. We should be attached to the results, but we should not be attached to enjoying the results. So we should do our best. We should do it with the best possible resources, best possible mind, consciousness. At the same time, not with self-will, self-motivation. And here, plainly his anger toward Indra was due to ignorance. Sometimes we see, right, in some of these movies and all, I'm remembering one of the movie was like, I mean, old movie, but Lagan movie. There was this guy who is jealous about this protagonist, and then he goes with the enemy camp, and he wants to, just because he wants this person to look like a failure, he tries to become, he betrays and he becomes a traitor. And he goes and tells the English people what this protagonist is doing. And then at one point, he suddenly comes to senses. And he's like, why am I doing this to my own people? You know, and the protagonist convinces this guy, saying, just because of your jealousy toward me, how can you put at risk all the lives of all these villagers and everything? How can you do that? And the guy is like, I didn't even think of those things. So usually when we become agitated, upset, jealous, envious, angry on other people, it's because we are not in touch with the truth of the matter, that Krishna is in control, right? Krishna is the what's that? Kshetragnokshara. He's the Ishvara of the field of activity. He's the Ishvara of the situations that's happening. He's the Ishvara of in the heart of the other person also, because he's sitting in the heart as Paramatma and in the other person's heart as well. So if we only can just align to that, God's will, Krishna's will, not mine, be done, then every day is like a festival. There will be no anxiety. And even in the recovery program work, people like there are different addictions, right? One kind of addiction is called thinking addiction. So there's a lot of these alcoholic anonymous groups which have texts that says the drinking problem. And actually, if we replace that word drinking with thinking, most of us can relate to that point of we have this thinking addiction. We are all thinkers. We think that no, life should be like that. We think the person should behave like that. We think so. It's a sort of an addiction. So even in that recovery work, they emphasize this point of God's will, not your will. Let God's will be done. And the idea is the goal is not as much to become free from alcohol addiction as much as it is to align with God's will. Because to just become free of alcohol addiction, it would be very superficial. But to become attached to God's will, alcohol addiction would be nothing to give up. And we've seen that in our Hare Krishna movement, so many Western people, they gave up so many sinful activities and everything, and very nicely they became devotees. And it's relevant for us also that sometimes we have weaknesses and we are like, I want to do this better, and we want determination to change ourselves. But this Kartik, like we discussed the other day, let's start with gratitude. See how Krishna is taking care of Prthu Maharaj so kindly, so lovingly. He's not saying, hey, you are my Shaktivesh avatar, why you're feeling all these emotions? If you do like this, what will happen to the human beings? He's not saying like that. We are the worst critics, we are the worst to ourselves. We put ourselves down, we gaslight ourselves. There's an expression in modern psychology called gaslighting. It means like there is a little thing and then you gaslight that you make that big and make yourself feel terrible and bad, and tamas guna, total tamas guna. So here we see that Krishna is very kind with Prthu Maharaj. And Prthu Maharaj is very humbly aligning to God's will. And he feels the emotion of anger, but he doesn't react. He doesn't react on that anger. So it's okay we feel emotions, but we don't react. And personally, for me, reading all this, and especially since I started the Bhagavatam for Independently Thoughtful, and through our discussions, like I feel a shift in my heart about the comparisons. Because why should we compare? We're unique. We each one have our own goals and relation with the Lord. And here, Prthu Maharaj, he was not able to complete his 100th sacrifice. And some of us, especially women, right, as we are reaching 40 or we are reaching 50 or we are reaching 30, we all feel a sense of, I couldn't accomplish all the things I thought I'll accomplish by 30. I couldn't accomplish all the things I wanted by 40. So there is a sense of like dissatisfaction, right? So whenever you feel that, remember Prthu Maharaj. Remember that if the Lord didn't want him to complete the 100th, who is he to think? He was thinking. So we can think in a similar way. If the Lord didn't allow me to whatever it is that we thought we should have done by now, just remember, as the Lord wishes. If whatever the Lord wants, may that be. Because personal gains, personal goals can be in the mode of Rajas Guna. It can only make us proud. It can only make us absorbed in ourselves. But if we align to God's will, and we ask the Lord, may the way I face obstacles become an inspiration for others, that I will help to come closer to you, Krishna. So putting Krishna in the center, that's what Prthu Maharaj is doing here. Yeah. Any other comments?
I really loved how we gaslight ourselves. Like, it is half of the thing we are self-imposing ourselves. Forget about others' criticism, half of it begins, and it's, it begins from us, and we are the only one who can end it too. So that's a very wonderful point you brought it up. I really appreciate it.
And growing up in Indian families, there is a little bit of contaminated concept of thinking of God as an unforgiving God. He'll punish. You have to do this if you don't do that. There's very much that fear element, right? But we don't see the Lord as in the light of, he's so compassionate, he's so loving. He doesn't have a problem with you. Only we have problem with ourselves because of our self, ego. Oh, the 100th sacrifice, right? I mean, it's an expression I'm using here now. I didn't finish the 100th sacrifice. That's, in our lives, I couldn't finish the housework the way I wanted. Oh, this didn't happen the way I wanted. Or whatever, right? We beat ourselves up ruthlessly. But if we have a child, a little girl, you would never do that. But you do it to yourself all the time, every single day. So tamas guna doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help us. It doesn't inspire us.
Mataji, and the worst thing is we shame ourselves a lot, especially from the culture we got, right? Shaming is so much that I was attending a workshop by Krishnila Mataji a few years ago, and she was telling, like, man, you Indians have so much shame. Like, like I sometimes I tell this to my kids, guys, shame on yourself. And then I realized, oh my God, what am I doing? You know what? This is how we we train them, we just say it, we don't really mean it, we just say it, but that keeps on ringing in this, and and then they feel ashamed. The shame and ashame is like so much, I think I need to work on it to come out.
And I was thinking of our history, right? As a country, we were ruled by the British, and that was quite traumatic for us. We were shamed all the time, and sometimes it got into a level of torture. And also there was all this caste system, the divisions, but very immature people started to use that caste system to put others down. If you may wonder, right, why in America everybody's so confident, even though they don't know anything, they're so ignorant, they're foolish, no education, nothing, but they're so proud. And in India, even though people are very intelligent, highly developed, and they may have all higher qualities, right, beauty and intelligence and class and values, still they suffer from lack of self-esteem, etc. It's a kind of a generational curse also that we have, generational DNA of shame and embarrassment, that it's a kind of a generational thing that we got it. Look, if we look back, our great grandparents, they got it and they got it. So somehow or another, there is that element. If you don't do this, you're damned. If you do this, then you're damned. You have to like stay within this and that. So there is a lot of that. Vedic society, it had healthy reasons to abide by God's rules, right? You wake up in the morning, you chant, you do this and that, and according to your varna, you engage yourself in certain activities. But then as unhealthy leadership came into place, speaking of Prthu Maharaj, we can think of unhealthy leadership. Then we saw that more and more there was misuse of caste system. And then people, they started to, Brahmanas, the so-called Brahmanas started to take over the society, putting everyone else down. And then a lot of, you'll read Prabhupada speaks a lot about caste Brahmanas became more and more and more predominatingly, influential. And then they didn't consider the quality of Brahminical qualities anymore. It just became about birth, right? All that, it all has an influence. There is a cultural influence on us. But at the same time, this is my main point, however blame and shame we may have on ourselves, we may blame ourselves when things go wrong, we may shame ourselves. That's just a small little consequence or a side effect to having been born Bharatavarsha, right? To be born in this holy land of India, to be connected to our generations who are always in touch with the Vedas, always in touch with Upanishads, always in touch with Gita and Mahabharata and Ramayana, and so much culture, so much values, respect towards gurus, respect toward elders. Even in my professional life, I see that no matter how much stuck up, constipated, I call, sometimes I feel Indians are constipated. I think it's very hard for us to be expressive. It's very hard for us to accept ourselves, etc. However, the cultural lineage or cultural things that come to us along with these things is priceless. It's so precious. Because many of the Western people, they come from Malaysia backgrounds, the time when the Vedic people were living Brahminical lifestyle, doing yagyas and chanting Vishnu Sahasranam and, preparing their lives towards liberation, our ancestors. The foreign people that now we are following, they were in caves eating animals, eating each other, they were like cannibals. So the point is, the evolution of this Vedic civilization also is in us. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget that there is always a side effect. I personally, as I've seen in astrological charts, there is more piety. There is more, the person's acquired, because it's not by chance we are now in this body in Indian families. We've had that connection even in previous lives. And that culture brings us closer and closer to attraction to, like I was just wondering now, like in our group, when we do especially Vishnu Sahasranam, etc., most of us are Indians only, everybody actually, Indians only. So Indians are naturally more attracted to Puranas, Upanishads, Vedas, Vedic hymns, mantras, Bhagavad Gita recitation. The foreign parents, they don't necessarily train their children with Gita verses, or you don't see that so much. But look at our Indian parents everywhere in the world. They'll make sure that the children will learn the verses, and there is that culture. It is with us. So we need to take advantage of that, even if we are not from, say, Hindu backgrounds, right? Still, being born in religious families, religious upbringing, it's a huge plus. You can't buy faith. You cannot buy faith. And especially for women, I keep emphasizing that Jupiter is that planet. When Jupiter is well placed, it shows that you have done piety in your previous lives, you have done pujas and seva of Guru, and in this life you'll be naturally more and more attracted to that. But other people may have all other planets, great Venus, oh, they know how to enjoy life, and they may have great Mercury, oh, they're very clever and very expressive, and they're very very, how do you say, their slangs are like so stylish, and this is what I like and I don't like that, and there's a lot of the superficiality of Mercury, but this thing of depth and value and culture and principles is priceless. We cannot compare. Look at Prthu Maharaj. He's Prthu. Okay, we're talking about Prthu. There's nobody more powerful than him. Even our ISKCON leaders, is very difficult for them to, they'll bow, they'll pay obeisances, but internally they'll be thinking, what is this sannyasi? I'm better. Sometime I'm just saying there can be, the contamination, right? But yeah, it has its weakness as well. In India, a little bit of the hierarchy system and all is a little bit misused, and there's so much that Ishvara Bhava. Foreigners, they easily give up power, position, money, and then they come to ISKCON, they really want to serve. But then Indians, we have that little bit, again, as I said, the DNA in us, no? Some of our ancestors went through discrimination due to caste system. Some of our all of our ancestors went through British rule. And then we get influenced by that psychological trauma that they carry. But it's the same thing also for other cultures. But ours, we can identify and work on it. Krishna's will, not mine, be done. This is what we're learning from Prahlad. This is what we're learning from Prthu. This is what we learned from Prthu Maharaj. Yeah. So we will stop our reading here today. And Rasastali Mataji is going to read us a beautiful affirmation. Ultimately, right, chanting the holy name, we do it with the right attitude, right consciousness. By doing that, we can get everything. The holy name can reveal everything, everything. So we're going to end this with the affirmations. And Rasastali Mataji, are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Affirmation 15. I chant with no other motive than to render pure devotional service. This sounds similar to the affirmation in which we state that we chant without asking for anything material. What's significant is that this is the main meaning Prabhupada had given us for the holy name. Example, Krishna, please engage me in your service, which also means please engage me in pure service. Prabhupada elaborated in this meaning in a lecture which I am paraphrasing as, My dear Lord, for so long I have been engaged in Maya service. Now I want to engage only in your service. So please put me under the shelter of your internal potency and uplift me, pick me up, pull me away from Maya. I don't want to be her servant anymore. I just want to be the servant of you, of Radha, under Radha's energy, your internal potency. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that when we are chanting, we should be in a service mood. The real holy name is the holy name which is imbued with the service mentality. As we mentioned before, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, the holy name descends when we chant in this mood, because we are meant to be a servant of the holy name. We try to chant in a humble state of mind, not as an enjoyer of the holy name. I am a servant of the holy name. I am a servant of Krishna, and I am chanting to awaken the pure mood of service. All we want is a pure serving attitude and pure serving emotion. This is the proper mood with which we chant. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Pure serving attitude ki jai. That is the mood. So we're going to now meditate on the holy names of Krishna, 1008 holy names of Krishna, Vishnu Sahasranam, with this mood of asking the Lord to engage us in service to the best of our capacity and approaching the Lord in the mood of humility and